Good morning, everyone. Delighted to be back with you today with a very special guest, Mary Ford. Mary is taken over with Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots program. And she, I have to tell you, she's the senior director for Roots and Shoots in the Jane Goodall Institute. But more importantly, I learned something personal about her. Right after college, maybe Jane was an inspiration. You went to Borneo to be with the orangutans. Jane went with the chimpanzees, you went with the orangutans. I'd love to hear more about that, what that experience was. But for the past 11 years, she's been with the National Geographic in their education department. And since April, the JGI is lucky to have pulled in Mary Ford to head up the Roots and Shoots program globally. So, Mary, tell us, what is Roots and Shoots?
Well, first, I should say I really oversee Roots and Shoots in the US specifically. And I do have counterparts in other countries. And we have a Roots and Shoots global office who helps to coordinate what's happening around the countries. I think we have active programs in 68 countries and growing now. And sometime in the past, we've had groups active in over 100 countries. So I think we'll get back up to that number. So Roots and Shoots is all about empowering and supporting young people, primarily young people, to take action in their own communities to help people, other animals, and the environment. And it is important, though, that it really can be young people of all ages, so from preschool and kindergarten all the way up to university level. But Jane also likes to emphasize that it can be for the young at heart. So there are also adults who are involved. There are a number of corporations that have employee engagement groups around the Roots and Shoots framework. And it's even been active sometimes in some prisons in the US. So it can be used in a variety of settings. It's just a platform and resources to help people make a difference in their own community.
Give us some examples. How?
So there's one group that I love talking to that they used our technique called community mapping, which is a technique adapted from what Jane Goodall Institute scientists do in the field in Africa, in the chimpanzee habitat. Community mapping is really about engaging people in the community to help understand what the challenges and resources are on the ground in their community, and then use that to inform conservation work and work to support the community and meet the community's needs. So that was developed in Africa. It's used very heavily in Africa in JGI's work there, and we've adapted it so that Roots and Shoots groups can use it in the US and in other countries as well to help them better understand their own communities. So one school I know about, the kids were really excited about gardening and growing their own food. So they knew that, but then they did community mapping, and then they realized that nearby there was a shelter that was housing people who were unhoused and feeding people, but they didn't have a good, affordable source of fresh food. So now the kids at the school, they created their garden, they grow vegetables, and now they send the vegetables to that shelter so the shelter can use it to feed people. So I think that's just a wonderful example of a group of kids supporting people in their community and using that community mapping to better understand what the community needed.
Where are these resources currently available?
Well, a couple places you should look. So everything we create for Roots and Shoots is available for free. So everything developed in the US and for US audiences is at rootsandshoots.org on the website. Everything can be downloaded and used from there. It's all in English because it was developed for an American audience. There's also a brand new site that just launched this week. So I really encourage you to check it out, called rootsandshoots.global. So rootsandshoots.global. And that's where we're coordinating everything that's happening at the global level. And there are links on that page to all the different groups in different countries, including emails of coordinators in different countries, websites for the different countries. And there's lots of resources compiled there as well. And there you can access resources in different languages too.
No, currently, as it stands, is it one curriculum which is global, or each place has its own specific curriculum based on the needs of that community or the country?
more like the second thing. It's designed to be adaptable to meet the needs of individual countries and the different educational structures in different countries, the different resources available in different places. But we all have a shared mission, and we all are about helping people support people, animals, and the environment. That is common throughout the whole global network. And that's a really critical and unique defining piece of Roots and Shoots, because it reflects Jane's holistic vision of how we make a difference in the world, that we're not just environmentalists who aren't thinking about the needs of people, and we're not just animal advocates without thinking about how people are affected, and vice versa. So I think that's a really special thing about Roots and Shoots, and that's part of the reason I was so excited to come work on Roots and Shoots, is that these three categories of action are really critical, and that's true across the whole globe. And then we have some tools that we share and use across the globe as well. And particularly, we like to use something we call the 4-step formula, which is all about getting engaged in community action, then observing your community, using tools like community mapping to better understand that community, then taking action, and then stepping back to celebrate and evaluate and reflect on what you've done, and then starting all over again. So that 4-step formula is a common resource that we use in many different countries.
Uh, I mean, you said 68 countries, right? At one point, it was 100 countries. So we have 93 member countries of the UN still to cover, right?
Yeah.
What are some plans for that?
Oh, that's what we work on all the time. So, I mean, here I'm in the US. I'm mostly in the US working to make sure we're growing and deepening our work in this country. But we have this wonderful global network, and we've been really expanding the way the network works so that we can support more and more groups. So we have a manager and a coordinator at the global level, one based in South Africa and one based in Argentina. And we recently hired coordinators for Africa specifically too, to help support the spread of Roots and Shoots to all the African countries. And actually next week, or no, tomorrow, I'm heading to Tanzania because are creating a community of practice, or we have created a community of practice for Roots and Shoots coordinators across the African continent, where we meet once a month on Zoom. And now we're getting to meet in person in Tanzania, but there will be people from all over Africa coming to this gathering to learn from each other. And the whole purpose of that is to share resources, share training, support each other as we grow into new countries and grow the presence of Roots and Shoots where it already exists too.
Are you going, is it in Gombe?
No, it's a short trip, so we don't have time to go to Gombe. So we'll be in Dar most of the time, but we will get to visit JGI's Tanzania office. Has a wonderful nature center in Dar called Pugu. So we'll get to go camping there one night. So no chimpanzees, but we'll see monkeys.
Very good. No, but in terms of Roots and Shoots, going back to it, now we know the existential threat to humanity is the issues of climate.
Yes.
And we know the SDGs and its predecessors, the MDGs, are far from being achieved. Is Roots and Shoots a program that can help achieve those minimum SDGs, and how?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought up the SDGs, because I really think they are a guiding light for us globally. And that's one of the wonderful things about the SDGs, I think, is it creates this common set of standards and goals for the whole world to work towards together. So, and of course, climate change is one of the biggest crises. We also talk a lot about biodiversity loss and habitat loss as real crises that need to be addressed in this moment right now. And what I love about Roots and Shoots is that it provides educational learning opportunities for young people to learn more about these crises and to learn more about the world around them, to better understand climate and climate change and global warming. But at the same time, it allows young people to actually take action now. And that's part of the ethos of Roots and Shoots, is that kids, young people, no matter how young you are, you can be part of the solution now. You don't have to wait till you're an adult. And you don't need to have a specific kind of education to make a difference. Like, who you are now can make a difference. And I think that's attitude everyone in the whole world has to have in order to meet those SDGs is that right now, today, in your own life, you can band together with a group of friends or classmates and take action and start moving the world towards a better place.
I endorse that 200% because nobody should feel they are not capable of contributing in some way, form, or the other. Just have the courage, get up. Look at Jane. I mean, she's such an
Right?
inspiration. Her age into the 90s, and she travels 300 days a year, or
Right.
during the COVID was on even more gatherings throughout the year. It's just a huge inspiration. So clearly that ethos flows through every bit of your work at the Roots and Shoots and JGI.
That's exactly right. I do think that the special thing about Roots and Shoots too is it allows people to really learn from Jane as a role model and to step into Jane's footsteps, which are, of course, you can't exactly fill Jane's shoes, but it's a way for people of all ages to really follow in Jane's footsteps, live the way she does, so deeply committed to making a difference for the world and for other people and for other animals.
My question specifically on this is, especially with the SDGs, the program that you do with the Roots and Shoots, have you mapped that out to see what SDGs are being accomplished in which place?
We have done it informally, and certainly I meet a lot of teachers, a lot of educators who do that, particularly in other countries. It's not as common in the US to shape curriculum around SDGs, but that is growing too. I see that changing quickly, and that's a great thing. But in some other countries, they're way ahead of us on that. And I think that's something we'll continue to invest in. So certainly I see Roots and Shoots groups in certain schools that are basing their work around the SDGs, but we could do more work on standardizing that to make it easier for other educators to embrace, even if they're less familiar with the SDGs as they're coming into it.
Yeah, no, because the SDGs are clearly aspirational. The programs have to be structured based on the needs of each community. So I think Roots and Shoots and the JGI can play a big role in bridging that gap, making that specific. Okay, if one thing works in one place, that template can be up in the platform for others to follow and adapt to their needs.
Yes, yes. That's a great idea. I think that's something we'll continue to invest in.
Yeah. No, you mentioned Jane. For me, I think one of the most transformational figures of our time in the planet is Jane. I mean, if one can accomplish even 1% of what she has done, their life's mission would have been accomplished.
Yeah.
So clearly, you're on that path. You're on the path. So for me, is what if you were to measure in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, where do you hope Roots and Shoots would be?
Well, so in the US, where most of my energy goes, there's a couple things we want to do. We want to bring Roots and Shoots to more and more kids, so that's a big part of it, to more people and especially to young people. And I'd like to do a lot more work with educators, so supporting educators who are excited to do Roots and Shoots and maybe just need to do a little more professional learning around it or have more resources. So that's somewhere we'll be putting a lot of effort, is in supporting educators who want to work with Roots and Shoots. We're also creating a network of what we call base camps, which are sort of an on-the-ground presence in different cities for Roots and Shoots in the US specifically, but maybe this model will expand globally too. And it's because we really want to invest in supporting kids in face-to-face relationships with other people in their communities, helping them connect with others and build bigger groups and stronger sense of place. So these base camps will have a staff person there from JGI, but based in the community in a place like Los Angeles, for instance. That was our first base camp that's gotten up and running. There'll be it's not necessarily a place, the base camp. The base camp is the whole city or metro area, but the way we'll invest in that city is through a staff person and then a big activated network of adult and young adult volunteers to help kids who want to do Roots and Shoots projects. And then in each base camp, we'll also have small grants to support the projects of the Roots and Shoots groups, and we'll have gatherings and events and celebrations. So that's a big part of what I'm working on here, is rolling out those base camps in places like Los Angeles and also Atlanta. We're launching one in Tampa very soon, Miami, Chicago, Denver, New York, Boston, and many more to come.
Is the Department of Education of our country, of the USA, involved in this?
We've had conversations with them, and so I think there's a lot of support there, but they're not directly involved. But maybe someday that would be wonderful.
To get them on board, right? To make
Yeah.
it absolutely something which every school should be teaching.
Yes. I'm also interested in other federal agencies too, in the role that like the National Park Service could play if we collaborate with what we call non-formal or informal educators, because so much of education happens outside of school, actually, both in the home or at a place like a museum or a zoo or a park or a nature center. So that's a place where I envision a lot of growth in Roots and Shoots in the US as well, in those informal education settings.
You mentioned grants. Who's giving those grants?
Oh, so we have a program that we call mini grants, where we raise money at the national level for Roots and Shoots US. And then twice a year, we give out small grants, and we give out a lot of grants that are about $250 to support individual projects. And then we have some specifically for educators who are already doing Roots and Shoots but want to grow their programs and get more kids involved. So these sort of growth-oriented educator grants. And then we have another smaller set of grants for youth leaders, people who are really taking a leadership role and really doing innovative and expansive Roots and Shoots projects. So we fund those twice a year as well. So that's something my office coordinates.
So is there somebody has to apply for it, or you scout the people, and then what's the process?
Yeah, yes, you apply for it. So an existing Roots and Shoots group or a new Roots and Shoots group that's just getting started but has an idea and has a group of kids who are interested, they can apply. There's actually information on our website right now because our spring grant cycle is open. It'll be open till April 7th. And then it closes for the spring, but then we'll launch one again in the early fall. So twice a year it comes around, and you just go to the website and apply.
I mean, these are such enormous resources, clearly a very ambitious plan. I'm honored to be part of the, as you know, the Jane Goodall Legacy Foundation, the Hope Foundation. And we have a great group of people there. How can we help leverage all that you are trying to do?
Well, I think one thing is to help bring Roots and Shoots to more countries or help expand it in some other countries. So we're doing a lot of work here in the US, but my counterparts in other countries are doing equally amazing work, and in some cases with fewer resources or much more challenging circumstances. So I really urge people to actually go to the rootsandshoots.global website too, and just see where Roots and Shoots is active and see where there might be a chance to support it in different countries, and even look at the countries where there isn't a current Roots and Shoots presence and think about, well, is there a way to get that started? Because you don't need to have an actual office or staff person to do Roots and Shoots in any given city or country. It just takes a group of dedicated volunteers. So I've seen Roots bring up because of an interest in from volunteers in different places. So we could get Roots and Shoots started in those countries where it doesn't even exist yet, and that would be wonderful. I think that's something that would make Jane feel very happy, because we just want to make sure that everyone in the whole world can get involved.
Leads me perfectly into our next part, is what we are is a platform, and we want to bring this online and make it viral globally.
Yeah.
So currently, where do you stand on the online presence, and how can CRL specifically help? Because for us, is Roots and Shoots is a program which is inculcating in even our youngsters to be responsible leaders of the future. They are leaders even now, but surely for taking the leadership in the future.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful question, because we want to harness the power of the internet and technology to make Roots and Shoots available to more kids in more places. And I think that's actually a wonderful aspect of technology, is that it can bring resources to people who are far from me, that I'll never get to meet in person, for instance, that may not get to see Jane in person, or people. It just really helps get Roots and Shoots and into many different hands. I think that one of the challenges and opportunities of my job and the jobs of my counterparts in other countries too is thinking about, how do we use digital tools to support Roots and Shoots while also maintaining Roots and Shoots really as a hands-on, on the ground kind of project, because that's what or initiative, because that's what Roots and Shoots really is all about, is actually being out in the community, making a difference, and really connecting to other people in your own community. So we want to use digital tools to help make that happen. And I think there's an amazing synergy that can happen there, where we harness the power of the internet, harness the power of the amazing technology we can hold in our hands, and use that to connect with more people and make a difference on the ground.
Do you currently have resources available to show what is being done across the USA, and which people can view online or go in person to see?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So on our website, there's a section called Stories, where you can see stories where we've taken some time to write up different projects we know about, or sometimes our young leaders have written stories about what they're working on, or some of our kids who are involved in different Roots and Shoots projects. So the Stories section really can help illuminate what's happening across the country. And then there's also a database of projects on there where we encourage Roots and Shoots groups to log their projects. It can help them keep track of what they're doing. And it also allows other people to be inspired by projects. And I think we have about 10,000 projects on there right now. And again, this website and this database was designed initially to support Roots and Shoots in the US. And that's why it's only in English right now. But it does get used globally, and we see projects on that map from all across the world. So it's really interesting to go on there and see what's happening both in the US and in other countries. And then you could just click on the projects and just get an insider look at what different groups are doing.
Just for my information, how many places in the US are the programs currently active on Roots and Shoots?
Well, so the great thing about Roots and Shoots is that anyone can really just jump in and start doing it. There doesn't have to be any kind of organized presence. So that means that truly, like when I look in our database and on our map, that truly in all 50 states, there are things going on. I think there's at least, at least 4,000 active groups right now, maybe more. And we don't always know what everyone's doing. The challenge of having such a big country with everything so far apart. Like, I don't get to meet everyone or talk to everyone who's doing Roots and Shoots. So I know there are amazing things going on out there. In fact, when I travel with Jane, everywhere I go, I meet Roots and Shoots groups that I hadn't yet known about, because they'll come up and tell me about their work. So keeping track of them is a big challenge. That's something technology helps with and can help more with, is just keeping track of what everyone is doing. But there are active Roots and Shoots groups in every state, and certainly in every big city, and then in many small towns too.
So that's something which we hope that people will start uploading straight onto the platform once they get more information about Roots and Shoots, that suddenly anybody can go and visit it. But, currently, is there any linkage officially with the United Nations on these programs, whether in the USA or around the world?
I think there isn't an official linkage with that, although of course we were very inspired by the work of the UN and a variety of the components of the UN that really inform our thinking. But I don't think we have a formal bridge right now.
No, I asked because Jane is a messenger, UN
Right.
messenger of peace. So she is officially designated in that
That's
capacity.
what I mean. Like, we are certainly very, very proactively inspired and lean into that role of Jane as a messenger of peace, and we promote that message too. And I know, like, for instance, we like to celebrate Jane's role as an ambassador of peace with our peace doves, where we build these some of our Roots and Shoots groups build these giant doves that are puppets that you can carry above your head. So we've done that with a couple of different school groups. I think we'll see one in Tampa as well. And then we also, oftentimes when we have an event with kids, we have them make paper origami doves and just talk about the dove again as the symbol of peace, and why peace is so central to Jane's mission and Jane's work, and what Roots and Shoots is all about as well.
Yeah, for me, is one of the things as the corollary outcome of this initiative is these young leaders. I don't want to call them kids, young leaders getting together and building trust amongst each other.
Right.
building communities.
That's right.
So
That's true. That's what Jane would say too, is that part of the magic of Roots and Shoots is people overcoming cultural differences to work together.
that's empowering, because one of our great challenges is our society, our communities are so segregated that
Right.
this is actually a unifier, bringing people together, seeing the challenge in the society and seeing what we can do together about it.
Yes, I agree. And I've seen some beautiful video footage of some meetings in the past where Roots and Shoots groups from different countries have come together and spent time together. And of course, we haven't done very much of that recently because of the pandemic, but hopefully we'll be able to do more soon. And I know there are some really fabulous pen pal projects that go on from Roots and Shoots. There's some projects that I think where there are pen pals in the United Arab Emirates and in the United Kingdom, where there's a very active pen pal program for Roots and Shoots groups. And I think we should build on that and expand that as well. But even within the US, I think Roots and Shoots groups can be great places for people to, to cross perceived differences and really work together, even though they come from different backgrounds.
You've taken me to yesteryears. As a kid, we had pen pals, and that was one way to learn the art of writing letters.
Yeah, right. I know, because I also grew up before there was internet. Most of my childhood there was no internet, so we used to write letters to pen pals, and it was so wonderful. It was. I'm a little sorry that kids these days don't have as many opportunities to do that, and so I think Roots and Shoots can help facilitate that, because writing those letters and then reading the letters. I had pen pals in Russia actually, and that was so interesting for me.
No, I think clearly Roots and Shoots is a great bridge builder and building trust, empowering communities. For me, the big thing is how do you envision? Because Jane Goodall's work is so vast and widely respected. How can we use that network to link it and bring it online with a CRL platform?
Yeah, I think we that's the task ahead of us, isn't it? That Jane, we want to make sure that Jane's message gets to as many people as possible, and not just her message, but her inspiring presence. Because I was just with Jane in Denver over the past couple of days, and I see it's literally magic the way people are inspired by her, and they walk away with a whole different attitude towards the world, towards their own community, towards wildlife, towards animals. And it is truly magic. And so I wonder, like, how do we bring that magic to more and more people? And so I think we want to use something like CRL as a way to capture that magic as much as we can through photos and videos and Jane's writing and the writing of people who she has inspired, especially young people, and sharing what they've done in Jane's name and in Jane's image with as many people as possible, and just getting the essence of that magic and sharing it broadly.
Yeah, I'm sure that you have some messages from Jane on Roots and Shoots specifically,
Yes.
as a video message which can be immediately uploaded as we do the video with you and your
Yeah.
videos. So please share that with us. And for me, going forward in this is that the resources that we have, I think Bart can help you understand a little bit more on the kind of possibilities, and then engaging communities. So actively engaging almost on a daily basis, if you wish. And then we can also connect globally.
That's just wonderful. Yeah, you'll see there are a couple of videos we've made with Jane about Roots and Shoots, and I'm sure she'll play at least one of them when you meet her in Tampa. And they're so inspiring, just showing Roots and Shoots groups all over the world. Some that have the peace doves, and some that are planting trees, and some that are just spending time with Jane. So it's very inspiring.
So should I bring my peace dove tie that Jane gave me many years ago, and the
You
peace?
absolutely should. I will make her so happy.
I do have them somewhere here. I do have them somewhere. But you have any?
Wear that.
But do you have anything to add on, or share with Mary before we?
Yeah, I have about a million questions, but we don't have time for a lot of them. But I was wondering if you could share, I think the wonder of Roots and Shoots is that it's such a generational bridge between the work that Jane has done her entire life and trying to bring that into a daily focus. I love the one-click actions that you have on the website. That's something that we've tried to emulate as countable and causes with adults, and trying to get adults to take action on issues. And I think it's an interesting change. There's an interesting transition that we've seen happening, particularly with youth. I have two kids, 12 and 14. And it's fascinating to see how they are perceiving the world and getting information, and increasingly the way that they're seeing and hearing and experiencing the world is not through TV or news or newspapers or even really websites. A lot of it's through these like really sort of flashy, quick video social media experiences. And I would love to understand now, or actually I'd love to brainstorm with you about ways that we can connect the actions into that world, and how I think increasingly there's a really interesting opportunity to capture the actions that are being taken, that are, or for that matter, when there are problems. When I think our kids are seeing the problems around them in their environment, in their communities, and they have this powerful capability now to become recorders and reporters and actors around it. And particularly as they get a little older, when they're very young, I think that's one set of challenges. But I would throw that out there as a question, opportunity. Would love to hear your thoughts, and would love to talk more about it. Something I think a lot about.
That's a great set of questions and whole category of thing to think about. But we, of course, like our young leaders do engage a lot with us on social media. And that's something for us to think carefully about, because there's a lot of dangers and negativity associated with social media, and yet it is such a connector. And I see our young leaders from Roots and Shoots connecting on Instagram all the time. They connect with us, they connect with each other. You can watch in real time as they inspire each other. And I think that is such a positive aspect of social media, because they share what they're doing in their communities, and other people think, I can see in the comments that other young people saying, this is so great, like how can I do this? And they'll point them to the Roots and Shoots resources or to their own things that they've developed. So that's something we want to embrace and support. And we have a social media team here that really does try to support that and elevate and amplify the work that our young leaders are doing. We really encourage them to tell their stories on social media. I know, and TikTok is complicated in many ways, but there's so much good stuff that does happen on TikTok right now. Like maybe that's not the platform we'll use forever, but I know, like, I see people learning languages on there, and certainly like gathering around and supporting each other on specific issues and finding community. So I actually think it is a great tool for us when it's used in the right way.
Well, Bart, my question to you in this is, now with all the chat GPT and all these platforms coming up, how can that be leveraged to use with the Roots and Shoots program? Mary, you have some thoughts? Bart, both of you.
Well, the emergence of AI and AI technology, much like any technology, can be used for incredible good, and can be used for trouble. I think we're seeing a lot of the trouble that's out there. The generative AI aspect, this idea that you can ask this bot a question, and it can find all this information that's out there and answer it for you in a succinct way, is incredibly powerful. And when you think about, there are a couple of things that I think could be really powerful for Roots and Shoots with this. One is, this is a great way for youth everywhere to get access to information that may be harder to find. They can pose a question and get an answer. And but the flip side of it that I think is also really interesting and important could be its own opportunity for a digital action or one-click action is, who's going to hold the technologies responsible for actually being truthful and putting out the correct information. And if we can have our youth become critical thinkers, and where they and particularly as it relates to the environment, to populations that are vulnerable to other animals, there's an opportunity, I think, for us to all become kind of critical testers to make sure that these technologies are in fact saying the truthful things and appropriate things. And what a cool way to engage youth in both a positive mission around and using these technologies, but at the same time saying, hey, is this in fact right? And I mean, I think there could be some neat stuff there. I don't know if that's a Roots and Shoots mission, but we're all going to have to make sure that the information that comes out of these is accurate.
Yeah, I think it will have to be everyone's mission. Any program working with youth is going to have to think about how do we address, incorporate, or approach AI. And we have started to talk about that as a staff at JGI US and beyond. Just what does AI mean to us? There are some incredible possibilities with us. I think for us with AI, including in conservation work, using AI to figure out where we need to be doing restoration in Africa and in the US and beyond. And we talk about too, like, well, how could we use AI to just better, like, make sure we're capturing and preserving and curating all the knowledge that Jane has to share. So we're just starting to talk about it. We have some great support from different academic institutions to think about that, but I think there will be a lot more to come there. But I really like what you said, Bart, about then also simultaneously working actively with young people on critical thinking around AI, just learning how to take, okay, that's a piece of information there. Let's understand where that's coming from, and then let's continue to use our own intelligence to interpret that. I think that's something we'll all have to work on. We'll certainly have to incorporate that into Roots and Shoots going forward.
It's not just AI, it's the AR also. I mean, with the AR also coming in, I think we have to be active thinking, because this is inevitable. It's inevitable. This is happening now. And if we don't use the resources, we'll be left behind.
Right.
Okay. So the question is getting the right knowledge, the right time to the right people, so that they can be the ambassadors of conveying the right and authentic message, rather than those bots taking over and conveying the wrong messages.
Right.
So that's something we should put our brains together to and think about it. And that's where Bart's role becomes critical, because he's a whiz in this section, in this segment. He knows it all. He's developed all.
I do not know it all. Thank you, Bob. But I just to sort of carry that thread. I mean, Mary, I'd be delighted to talk further, and if there are ways that that I can be helpful to Roots and Shoots, I'd love to. And I'm sure you have a lot on your plate, and it sounds like you've got quite a staff achieving this incredible work you're doing. But if I can be helpful, I'd love to.
Thank you so much. We will definitely take you up on that offer. Could use all the help we can get.
Yeah, no, going back to the Roots and Shoots and our whole concept, because for me is what I started with, looking at these young leaders. They are responsible leaders. They are taking responsible action. All those people engaged in Roots and Shoots programs around the world. How can we begin to showcase those people on the platform, so that they are getting visibility and people can be inspired? These are common people. These are not some celebrities,
right?
Who are known globally. But let's make them those celebrities.
Yeah. Well, actually, we have two ongoing initiatives to capture stories from around the world from Roots and Shoots, where we have some funding from different sources. We have some funding from Disney, actually. So thank you, Disney, and some funding from the John Templeton Foundation. So thank you, Templeton. And it's allowing us to spend some money to actually capture photos and videos of Roots and Shoots in action around the world. And that's happening right now as we speak. So it would be great to be able to showcase some of that work, some that we're capturing right now, and help make those people celebrities, help make those kids into inspiring role models.
Yeah. No, because a small thing, one tweet, one Snapchat, one Instagram thing can suddenly go viral and millions of people can follow it.
Right.
So let's make that happen. Let's today is a great conversation. What I would urge is, if the next part of this could be to engage your team globally on
Yes.
a similar conversation with us like this,
Yes.
so that people can hear directly from all these people on what is happening around the world.
I think that's a terrific idea. We could talk to our global manager and global coordinator, and perhaps a couple other of my counterparts from other countries can share what's happening there. Because Roots Institute started in Tanzania, so it's very, very strong in Tanzania. I'm so excited that this next week I'll get to see the Tanzania programs in action. And my Tanzanian colleagues will have lots of stories to share about how successful it's been there, but also in other parts of Africa and other parts of the world.
Yeah. So, but can we make that possible, that getting the whole team and doing it together, or do you want it separately?
I think it'd be great. I mean, it just depends on. I mean, that we'll figure it all out. We don't need to do it all here, but whoever's available, I think it'd be great to have a conversation. We can definitely facilitate a group conversation. Absolutely.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So, Mary, in closing, one message from you to the community who will be listening, watching, or that we'll be reaching out to. What can they commit to now, which is going to make a difference in their lives and in the lives of their children and their children's children?
Well, okay, so I'll say a couple of things. One is really just to embrace the ethos of Roots and Shoots, and you can think about it through that 4-step formula. And the first step is getting engaged. And I would guess anyone listening to this now is engaged and cares. But if you need more inspiration, you can go to the Roots and Shoots website, the rootsandshoots.org website. And there's a lot of information about Jane's story there and a lot of video from Jane. And if you need some inspiration, that will get you inspired. And we have other inspiring role models there as well. And then, the second step in the formula is to observe your community, figure out what it needs. So I don't want to tell you right now, like, what you should do to make a difference in your community. You really should take the time to go understand your community and figure out, how do you help the people in your community? How do you help other animals in your community? How do you help the environment in your community? So those are sort of the first 2 steps before taking action, is getting engaged and observing. And then I think if Jane were here, she would also just encourage people to create a group. When Roots and Shoots was founded in 1991 on Jane's porch in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, and it was a group of young people who had come to her, and they felt a lot of despair over all the problems in the world and in their communities, and they didn't know what to do. And she encouraged them to go back to their schools and gather groups of their friends and then tackle the problems in the community. And that's how Roots and Shoots was born. So I think anyone listening now, like, you gather your people around you, gather your friends around you so that you can make a difference together. And then I know if Jane were here, what she would like to end on is a chant that Roots and Shoots students in Tanzania started. So it started by students saying at the end of their group meetings, they would say, "Together we can." So there are a lot of videos of groups of children doing that. But then Jane suggested to them that, yes, of course we can, but we also must commit that we actually will make a difference. So now they say, "Together we can," and then they say, "Together we will." And now Jane has added a third statement, which is, "Together we must." So when we've been together this week, she's been having these huge crowds of 5,000 people in Denver chanting, "Together we can, together we will, together we must."
Amazing.
So we just want everyone to leave with that message and feeling fired up to go find your people, find what your community needs, and then make a difference.
That is a wonderful note. Simple actions can have profound impact.
Yes.
That is the essence of what we are hearing.
That's
so
right.
Everybody here, take a cue from this. Commit. Do not feel that you cannot contribute. It's just these simple actions which you'll feel make a difference in your lives and the lives of people all around you. So thank you. Thank you so much, Mary. Lots of work to do. This is just the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you, Bawa. Thank you so much for having me here.